Here we have a Pioneer, the DEX P99RS. This is their very high-end car audio receiver. Unfortunately, it and a couple other Pioneer units do have a problem with the ribbon cable, or they develop a problem, I should say, with the ribbon cable for this front faceplate and the display. Eventually what happened with mine, just out of nowhere, it was no longer fully ejecting. It would only get about halfway, and then it would kind of stop working. It wouldn't go all the way flat, so you could actually get the disc out. It would go like partially way, get stuck, and the display would get stuck. Luckily, most of the time I'm not using CDs. Usually using USB with a hard drive hooked up. So it's not as big. It wasn't a big deal for me for a while, but what eventually happened was the display completely went blank. I couldn't adjust anything, couldn't change anything. I couldn't navigate to different folders on the hard drive. I basically just left it, just let it play whatever it wanted to play for a while, which was okay for a while, but I really wanted to get a replacement. So I decided to do the teardown. It's not that difficult of a job, and the part is fairly inexpensive. You can get this ribbon cable. You get them, order them from China. They're about $10, a few dollars for shipping, so about all dollars, about $15 all in. If you have the know-how of replacing it or fixing it, it's a pretty simple repair for the most part. The hardest part is going to be on this connector, which is usually on here. This metal plate is usually behind, but the connector is usually on this black plate, and that's what interfaces with that contact strip here. This actually has to be soldered. The pins have to be soldered to a piece of that ribbon cable, on both the top and bottom. And where you could see where it failed, and this is just from normal usage, is right there. Get nice and close, you could see the tear. See my finger through it. The ribbon cable just gives way, and those small lines in there do break. So that's the culprit. Opening the unit is not all that difficult. If your faceplate is already off, that makes things a little easier. Mine was fully in the up position, so once I got this open, I had to manually wind the gears to release it. But to open it up, the main thing is this plate here is able to be pried up. You're going to want to start in the back. For me, I found it easiest to start right back here. There's a little room. You can get either a small pry tool, or you can just use a flathead screwdriver, a really small one. You just want to get in this corner, and what you want to do is slowly start to peel it up. There's clips here that lock in here and here, and also on the other side, here and here. So again, start at the corner. What I found to be easiest was to start at this corner and worked my way back. Just keep prying it up slowly, little by little. Don't go large amounts, just go little by little. Make your way around. Eventually you can make it to here. And then what I did was, once I got this whole back side clear, I started to work my way forward. Just go little by little, just go gentle with it. You don't want to, you can easily bend this, so don't go crazy with it. So pull this up. With your pry tool, just slowly, just very lightly, and just pull on it a little bit, and it will come up. Eventually you get to the point where this is like this. These ones are a little easier. The ones here and here are a little easier. Once you get those free, you really got to be careful, because this lip is over the underside here. So you really have to kind of be careful, because you could bend this. So as long as you work slow, you can start to get it up. Once you get over here, once this one releases, this thing is going to come out pretty easy. Same deal with the other side. Slowly work your way down. watch out of that clip there, because again, this one's going to be a little bit more challenging because it's a little tighter there. Sorry about the focusing issue. I don't know why it does not want to stay focused on this unit, probably because it's shiny. So then these two are going to be the tighter ones. Once they are released, this whole top cover comes right off, and you can put it to the side. Once you get this out, you now have you have to remove the CD tray, and there are a couple different screws here, 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 and that back corner, which is the first one I showed, right down there. Once that is done, you can lift this up and out. Now, be careful, because there will be two cables that are attached. Now, mine is already detached, but just be careful with it. You want to just pull up on it, don't want to get too tight with it. This ribbon cable here will be attached right there. This black connector right there. It does have two little, if I could show you now, that'd be a lot more light on it. Right here and here, it's got kind of a sliding lock mechanism. So you just gotta pop one side out and then pop the other side out, and that ribbon cable will pop right out. Now, as far as this other cable goes, it's easier to remove this from the main board side than it is from the drive. So as long as you pull this up and out of the way, you're able to get like a small plier and grab that connector from right here. Let's get a little closer here. That connector right there. Make sure you're grabbing the piece that's attached to the wire and not the piece attached to the board, because you don't want to rip or break this connection, but you do want to get that connector separated. I used a really small needle nose plier. I just wiggled it a little bit, it comes right out. So, if your faceplate was in the up position, like mine, this is the mechanism here, as well as another wheel on this side, gear. All you have to do is rotate it. You'll notice that it's moving. You just want to rotate it. If you have the faceplate facing away from you, pull this back towards you, and it will push it out. From there, just do like usually we do, hit your little button to release and pull it straight down. So from here, that cable, this piece is typically attached in here. Apologize, I'm trying to do this with one hand. It's not as fun as it looks. Okay. So typically this piece here is adhered with two screws into this metal backing plate. They're small screws. Any small screwdriver should be able to do the trick. You could use one like this, or one of these small electronics screwdrivers really comes in handy. Whole bunch of different types of tips really comes in handy. This one is from Oria. That's a good unit. I have another one by iFixit, also a really good unit. Anyway, so there are two small screws that you're going to pull out of there, those guys there. And once that is free, you'll be able to, this plate will free up. You'll be able to kind of pull this around and eventually slide it out. Same kind of connector here as there is on the bottom of the drive. Again, it's got the same kind of slide clip mechanism. Just pop one side, pop the other, and that ribbon cable will pull right out. Reassembly is just as easy. You put the ribbon cable in, and then you slide these in to lock it. Just like that. So from here on, I'm going to proceed to remove this. I'm going to get a heat gun, and actually I have a hot air reflow station, so I'm probably going to use the hot air to free up this solder here on both sides. Also use it to separate this because this does have a strong adhesive on it. I could probably just tear it. Actually, this pulls off pretty easy. Well, it was. There we go. Pull slow and steady usually works. Sometimes actually breathing on it helps too. The warmth of your breath can actually be enough with certain adhesives to warm it up just enough to get it to free up. So that's it for right here. I'm going to work on this piece and I'll be back. Okay, so I have that connector now attached to this little set of helping hands. If you have a set of these, it's going to make it a lot easier. So I just grabbed it by the plastic piece, which is free from the actual piece that we're going to be working with. Also, if you have some flux, couldn't hurt to put a little on there. Just some flux in there. There, okay. So, some flux. Usually you don't want to touch flux, but whatever. So just get it in there. That'll help clean it and get it out of there. This is our new connector, our new ribbon cable. You'll see it looks just like the original. It comes with the adhesive on that one piece, which attached to that metal bracket. And it also uses a piece of adhesive here so you can attach it to this connector while you're trying to solder it. Actually makes it pretty convenient. That'll actually hold it in place so you don't have to worry about trying to get it there while you're doing this. Okay, so I've decided it's actually easier to do this with the iron rather than the hot air heat. With the iron, we can just kind of pull back on this a bit. And we can heat these contacts. Okay, so not holding the camera made this a lot easier. As you can see, the pins are now free. Soldering iron just on these pins only takes like a second, and it melts that solder real easy. The hotter heat, I was actually afraid of melting the plastic. I didn't want to do too much damage to the plastic, so I decided to stop with that. Now I'm going to turn this around and get the ones from the other side. Okay, connector is fully desoldered from here. What I'm going to do now is just clean up these pins a little bit, just so that we make sure we get a nice good connection onto the new ribbon cable. Also try to remember which one is which, top and bottom of this, because you want to make sure that it goes back on the same way. The way you could tell on this is the top has plastic all the way up to the edge. The bottom one is kind of lower. Meant to be spring-loaded. So I'm going to clean up these pins a little bit, and then clean up this bottom side. It just has a little bit of sticky residue. And we get that new piece attached and start soldering in place. Okay, I have this all soldered up. See all new solder on there. Did both sides. A little hard to get down there. Just going to release this and get it flipped over. I just want to check, make sure it looks good. Both sides. Then I'll clean up any flux that's left on there. Yeah, I'm going to retouch this side up again real quick. Just want to make sure those joints are as good as possible. This side's a little harder to get in there because it's a smaller. Like on this side, you have a lot more room to work, and you don't have a connector to worry about. You don't want to burn the ribbon cable at all. So, but yeah, I'm just going to clean up these connections one more time, and then clean this off with some isopropyl alcohol. Take any of that remaining flux off. Okay, so we got it all soldered and cleaned up. You can see we got all new connections there. And there. Looking good. So now what we get to do is reinstall it into the main unit. And to do that, we need a couple things. We need what we just worked on. We need this metal backing plate. We need the unit itself. And we need those two screws we took out of there before. So, first things first is we have to feed this back in through the rear of it. So we're going to lift this up, and you can just put it in an angle. You want to be able to get it to where you can get the whole thing in there. Once it's in there, you can pull it back out. So you could do it like that. Now you could leave it in there like that, or if you want, you could actually set it up onto this plate first. I'm going to put it this way first, and then bend and attach this cable as necessary. So I'm just going to put this up on its back for a minute. This would be easier with an extra set of hands. But, so this is that plate. And it's going to have to go. This one here, this little hole here, and this one here are the ones that are actually threaded. And this here is where that adhesive is going to stick. So I'm going to adhere that and then get back to it. Here's a quick tip. If you look closely, there are little dimples on both sides. And that allows this plate to lock in. So you'll know when you have it in that spot. Again, not something to do with one hand, which I'm going to attempt to do anyway. But that's how you'll know you have it in the right spot. Is when you have those two pieces on those dimples. Let me see if I can get it. I got one of them on. Oop. One, and if I could move at very small increments, I could do this. Okay. Oop. Every time I think I get it with one hand, I don't. Okay. So that is in place. Now, if your connector on the other side had not moved, like mine did, you'd be fine. So I'm going to have to use two hands for this while I screw that in. But yeah, you use those two little dimples to line it up. Again, using two hands is key. That lines it up perfectly. And then you can bend this piece back the way it needs to be, peel that off, and adhere it basically right where my thumb is. Right here is where the previous one was. Okay. So, yet again, Pioneer makes this kind of easy for us. They use these tiny little dimples or marks, or what you want to call them, little pointy nubs, and then there's holes in the ribbon cable. So, what I did was pass the connector through into the main chassis, and then fold this back until you have those those holes lined up to fit on those two little nipples. And then peel you want to probably peel off the adhesive first, peel it back, and then rub it down. Now what I'm doing here is purposely not going to crease this. I don't want to make this too tight. It's bad enough that the unit might do it on its own. But the adhesive only goes up to about here anyway. So I'm not going to crease this. I'd rather leave it as a little bit of a curve on there to the front. And then when we pass over to the inside, we'll see we have the cable here. Make sure this is in the unlock position. Now you may need to pull this out a little bit. Just pull it back once you have it low enough. Oop. You might be able to, again, this is not a one-handed job. Okay, once you have it pretty much into place, you can slide it forward, which again, not a one-handed job. So I'm going to slide that in, and then I'm going to push these locks in. That ribbon will be in place. And we're connected. Now the easiest way to do this is to use some sort of small tool. I would recommend something plastic. That way you don't accidentally scrape the top layer of the PCB. So try to use a plastic tool, whether it be a little scraper or just a little pick, plastic pick. What you're going to do is put pressure on this side of the ribbon, push it downward so that it keeps it flat, and then use a little plastic tool and just nudge it inward. You have to make sure these locks are in the out position. Right now this one is locked, so once you see that it's pretty much lined up with the drawing on the board underneath, that is in as far as it goes, and then you can push these locks in place. Now basically we're going to do the reverse of disassembly. Now I did some additional disassembly, which I didn't realize, just because I figured I needed to do that to open it. So actually there's less involved in opening it than I would have thought. So I'm going to put my disk drive back in, and just make sure I have the orientation correct. So that goes like that. So we're going to take this cable and make sure it's facing the correct direction. I might need to flip this upward, just like that. Okay. Well, try not to put the pressure on the wires like I did. This is an expensive unit, so just want to get in there. Make sure we have it going the correct direction. Always a fun part. Okay, so you'll see the pins are on the outward side, and that on that connector, the pins are on the inward side. So we gotta make sure it's on the right way, and there's it. Just push it down. That's in place. Now what they did to keep the wires out of the way is they had it tucked underneath this little piece here. They have this little wire that they use to keep the wires pulled out of the way. So we got to make sure that we stick this back underneath there when we put this drive back in place. And we also have to reattach this ribbon cable. So I'm going to flip it this way. I'm going to flip it towards me, and I'm going to work on reattaching this ribbon cable. Now the brown lock is in the open position, so I'm just going to put this in. Flat like that. Once we feel it bottom out, like we just did, I'm going to push those brown tabs down. There, and excuse my hand, it's pretty tight in here, so we're just going to make sure those are pushed all the way down. I like to just keep going back and forth until they don't move anymore, like that. Okay, then we have this here. Again, just tuck it underneath. They had it tucked kind of behind this little the chime speaker, and then you're going to lower it down into place. Be careful with it. Don't want to slam it. Okay. Make sure your screws are lined up. That's the easiest way to tell. It's that one there. Then you have these holes here, here, and again back here. Okay, so now for reattaching this drive, the disc tray, you have 4 regular steel or aluminum colored screws. Just going to do one at a time, just one in every 4 corners. Now what I do, I'm going to start right back here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten them, but I'm not going to tighten them, snug them down yet. I'm just going to get them going. So, and I usually go across from each other. So if I start at top right, I'm going to go bottom left. Again, not going to snug them yet. I'll wait till they're all in position. Sometimes if you snug one, you might make it ever so slightly off and you can't get the other ones in. So I just like to get them going. It doesn't seem like this is going to have an issue with anything not working, but again, better be safe than sorry. Now, since this is the last one in, I can actually snug it. You don't have to go crazy with these. Just get them snug. It's not going to go anywhere. This is a sealed unit. Okay, so now I'm going to reattach all the other screws that I stupidly removed, thinking that I would have to take this whole thing apart to get to this front panel, but it turned out not being the case, which is good because it makes things a little bit easier. So I'm going to reattach those and get this thing put back together. Putting this panel back on is very easy. You just want to start with it down, put it onto this section. You'll see it'll kind of fit right onto these clips here. You don't really have to push it hard or anything like that. You just want to get it started in that corner and then just start to lay it down flat. Work here, press here and here, try pretty evenly. You'll hear it snap both into these two little clip notches here. That'll snap there. Then start to work it down, work like this way, work it this way, and then again here, this one and this one, same type of snap will click down, and then you have two more like that here and here. Both of those will click down, and once you do that, the job is complete. Now see, I also removed the screws that held these in. I removed that, and I removed the 4 on the back. So I did all those, thinking that I would have to remove this cage entirely, but apparently not. Now, the ultimate test is when I can put this back in the car and make sure it works. Repair successful.